Welcome to SciTech Culture with Steve Kern and Ben Warner, where we examine science, technology and culture in the 21st century. Visit our website at scitechculture.com. Hello and welcome to SciTech Culture, the show where we discuss science, technology and culture, either individually or wherever they intersect. I'm one of your hosts, Ben Warner, and I'm joined once again by my good friend and colleague, Steve Kern, my co-host. How you doing today, Steve?
I'm good, thanks, Ben. Hello, SciTech Culture fans. It's good to be here for Act 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Just before we get into our main topic today, we just wanted a bit of a follow-up from last week because obviously there's been a frenzy with the iPhone 6 launch, and I couldn't help myself. I had to just hop on a tram and pop down to the Telstra Central store here in Melbourne to see the lineups, and I'll overlay some photos I took, and I posted those on Instagram earlier in the week. And earlier, should say yesterday, yeah, it was just hilarious that like it was quite an easy process for me to just hop on the internet and do a pre-order, and okay, so I get it next week instead of on the launch day on the Friday. But there were heaps of people there, and maybe to Telstra's credit, they actually had this girl out there singing songs for the people and keeping them entertained while they were waiting in the queue. I mean, I don't know how long they were there overnight. But
there you go. Over here in Adelaide, they had a little barista there with a coffee machine as well. So I don't know what that was.
Was there a lineup at that Apple store in Rundle Mall?
Certainly was a lineup in the Apple store. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and funny enough, the 5.5-inch phone is the one that's screaming off the shelves at the moment, because I walked in to the Telstra store this morning because I had some other things I needed to take care of, and I overheard one of the Telstra guys telling someone that they had plenty of the regular 6s there, but the pluses are out. So
I've heard the same thing locally. So yeah.
So it's all. I think it's just a testament to Apple's marketing power, really, that they can whip people into a frenzy like that after so many iterations of the iPhone.
Well, the 6 Plus definitely is different, so I'm not surprised that people are excited by it. The reality is, even though the 6 is a great phone, it's probably just more of the same for some people. If you were going to upgrade from a 5S, maybe you'd only want the Plus, I don't know. Yeah,
and of course there's the obligatory Samsung Android fanboy backlash saying, we've already had all this since 2012. Oh well, we'll leave that as an argument for another day.
Both phones are too big, but hey, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. I think the man bag jokes still apply, to be honest.
It would make a great Seinfeld episode, actually, if they were still going.
Absolutely. Should also mention the iOS 8 launch. It looks like a fairly... I did it with the iPad and the iPhone 5 I've got. And, it's, an improvement over what's before. It doesn't look all that much different. I don't know if it's what Phil Schiller said was the thing that, the operating system people were lusting after. But, more Apple marketing hyperbole, I would say, but it's a solid update. So, but you've got the 4S still, Steve, and from what I understand, you better not upgrade. So, because it sounds like it cripples the phone.
Yeah, at the rate I'm going, I'll probably be hanging out for the 6S.
Yeah, exactly. Just a couple of other things too. Just wanted to mention, I've had a fairly good solid first week with the Fitbit because I've gone more than 60 Ks. At least that's what the website's telling me after collating all the data. So pretty happy about that. I did about 25,000 steps just this morning, running around the city doing bits and pieces. So it's just a really good, you've been sort of doing this sort of thing already for quite a while now with your LifeTrack device. So it's handy to have that kind of information around. I think it's not that I went deliberately out to do any extra walking, but then when you actually see how much you do in a day, it's actually, I didn't realize I was doing that much walking.
Yeah, it's very motivational. Are you sharing any of this online, Ben?
I think I've just posted one photo, and that's probably about it, I think, at this stage. And just finally, too, culturally, in Australia, two icons have passed into retirement. Well, they're about to anyway. Margaret Pomerantz and David Stratton, they're finishing up their At the Movies show that's been running for 28 years, I understand.
Yeah.
And, I think people were shocked that it was all going to be over. Like, even if you weren't watching, I think it was kind of nice to know that they were there reviewing the films and taking care of business and that sort of thing. But now that they're not going to be there, it's going to be different. And like we were saying before we got on, Steve, they're not the ABC. It's ABC, yeah. They're not replacing the show. And even if they did, it would probably be some sort of celebrity promote the film, sort of pale imitation of what they were doing.
Yeah, it just wouldn't work. So it's probably a sign of the times as cinema is indeed changing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get on to our main topic for today, and a bit of technology and a bit of cultural impact and all of that sort of thing. The impact of technology on political discourse, and of course that has a flow-on effect to the rest of society and how things are going. So just as an overview, has technology had a positive or negative impact on political discourse over the last decade? With many bemoaning the loss of true leadership at the government level, it has been suggested that the increasing pace of our lives, including the development of instantaneous and soundbite exchanges courtesy of social media and other platforms, has led to politicians being unable to tackle big reforms because they cannot control how the message is delivered to the public. Is this the fault of the rapidly developing technology, or have politicians been unable to adjust to the new communications environment to get their beliefs through? Has technology curtailed the ability of politicians to pursue their convictions, particularly in fear of an instant loss of support spearheaded on social media? Or will politicians once again regain their mojo, for lack of a better word, for reform once they know how to tackle these new technologies? Will we ever see the politicians of conviction again like we did in the past? But maybe they're savvy enough to embrace these new technologies to get the messages across? Or are we just going to be stuck in this quagmire that we're in at the moment? It's interesting, isn't it? You can't, in thinking about this, you can't totally blame just technology for that, because
no, you can't.
I mean,
you can't blame technology at all.
But at the same time, you can see how it has changed things and has kind of gone this way. It's probably more along the lines of the politicians just haven't caught up with what's been going on, and probably in Australia at least, and Kevin Rudd was probably the first one that we could think of that utilized social media extensively, but it was pretty much just him posting selfies of himself and tweeting about all sorts of things.
But that's what social media is.
But that's what I'm saying. And he had that relentless drive to win the day politically, and that unfortunately narrowed the focus to the day rather than the big picture reforms, which unfortunately you need to think years ahead of how it's going to impact on the culture and the society that you're trying to change. So I don't know where you go from there. It might just be that we're still in that infancy period of how do we handle this sort of thing. I guess there's a correlation in the States. You've got Barack Obama doing the same thing. He was probably the first president that really extensively used social media as well. And it sounds like he used social media greatly, well, his team anyway, to get him elected. How it's gone the rest of the time is, up to any sort of different judgment. But what do you think about all that sort of thing, Steve?
Well, I think there's a couple of things to say. Firstly, there's two types of media in the modern world, and there's still the traditional media. That's the first type. And I think politicians have mastered that. They've mastered the 24-hour media cycle. They do all their announcements on Sundays, which are slow news days, or the announcements they want to make on Sundays, and then they just manipulate the rest of the traditional media the rest of the week to get their sound bites through and use language to ensure that happens. Where I think the problem with social media is that basically it's not a political platform. No. Social media is social, and it's typically self-driven. It's about what you think, what you're doing, which is great. So on Facebook and Twitter, which are two of the most popular, there are certainly others, but you can talk about, whatever it is that you're doing. Now, that works well for an individual, but it doesn't work well for a politician who is trying to drive a cause and is highly pragmatic. So we'll say one thing one day and do something completely different the next out of the need to get elected, or the need to drive a policy, or the need to negotiate or compromise, or whatever it will be. The problem is you say it once on Twitter and then 2 weeks later do the reverse, there's 2 tweets and you'll get absolutely crucified by the masses for doing it. So it's not a very good forum for changing your mind.
Or does it require maybe a politician to sort of know how to sort of stand up and make bolder statements? So if they get onto, I mean, obviously television still works as a platform, radio still works as a platform. If they just come out and say what they need to say because they believe in it and they want to do something, would that be enough to overcome any perceived inconsistencies that, you know, a 140 character statement, throwaway statement too, I might add, would
it's
have?
It's not though, because it's there in print and anyone can access it.
But that's a good example of it. Is it? Can they be classified as you know, gospel? You know, that kind of thing. Like you know, it's very hard to. It's not like you know, an email communication is structured in a way and has had to be thought about. So if someone gets a hold of an email that says a politician's up to something dodgy or something that they weren't knowing about, it would seem to have a bit more weight to it. But, you know, a tweet is done so quickly, you know, and if they have to, I guess it kind of hinders them. If they were to worry so much about what they're going to put on social media, that you know, they'll be worried, they'll be thinking too much about what they're going to say instead of, you know, in the moment, rather than thinking of that big picture.
Look, Ben, this is a wider discussion about, you know, technology and or is society or is government, not just politics, are our laws up to where we need them to be?
Yeah.
Now, you can go down to your local pub, have a beer with a guy that'll tell you absolute rubbish, maybe lying or maybe just be completely ignorant on a topic. Okay? You can go down to the shopping mall, you could meet a shop assistant trying to sell you a phone, and they could talk absolute rubbish as well. Okay? The fact is that Twitter and social media generally has been hijacked as a publishing platform. So you can't, you know, say anything libelous about anyone.
Yeah.
Because it's considered a publishing platform. Therefore, if you steal someone else's work and reproduce it in social media, there are copyright and IP issues. Likewise, if you say someone is a complete, you know, insert rude words here, you are responsible for that. And if you say something completely incorrect about somebody, they can sue. So
in that case, would a politician be pursuing a social media platform just like any other media platform, in that they have to make sure that their team is totally on top of what is going out on their feed, just like they would on any other type of broadcasting platform?
And this is where the bit which you can't control is the problem. So they apply their usual media channels or media protocols. So, yeah, of course, one politician's feed is on message. But all it takes is one of 100 politicians' Twitter feed not to be on message, or the social media crowd to react and somebody say something not quite correct or something that inflames the situation, and you lose control of the situation. The beauty of traditional media is a one-way conversation. Social media, if it gets out of hand, and it's going to blow up. And I think that there are other examples of this as well that are, you know, also in the wider scheme of things, you know, create a lot of these issues.
So in that sense, would it be better for them to say tweet less or post less and just make sure that what they're saying stays on message and they don't respond in huge amounts to whatever they get sent?
Typically, yes. I mean, you look at the big corporations; they learn very quickly when they mess up, and there are lots of great fails. All you have to do is Google corporate social media fails, and you will see lots of ones that will have you laughing for hours. And for politicians, it's no different.
Yeah.
And we saw a couple of blunders actually in the last election campaign, which are worth looking up. So it's a platform that has been hijacked. And I'll give you one other example. LinkedIn is a really good one. So LinkedIn is a professional, personal network, but who owns your profile?
Yeah.
So you say that you work for such and such, and what if you then post stuff? And I'm not talking about saying where I work is crap. I'm just talking about, what if you want to post your own profile or post what you think your skills are?
Yeah. And who's going to check it, kind of thing?
Well, who's going to check it? But what right has your workplace got to demand how you post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess.
So if you choose to put nothing except your name and all your previous experience and just say, I work here now, and you have an internal marketing campaign where every employee should be, promoting themselves in a particular way.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
So I think there are lots of these instances. They're no different to a politician. How does a politician present themselves? Well, it's very easy in traditional media.
Yeah.
But in social media, if you say one wrong thing on your CV, someone who hasn't seen you for 25 years can say you failed high school or you never passed law.
I guess another way of looking at it too is that in the traditional media outlets, like how you're saying, it's a one-way conversation, so they could control the message. In some sense, with social media, the public now can almost be ahead of the politician.
Yeah.
And that's where the danger lies, at least for them, in trying to get something done. If the public is ahead of you, then you really need to be on top of your game. And that's why I'm wondering if it really requires a new breed of a really special type of politician to break through that.
I just don't think you can win, Ben. So on traditional media in the old days, you got up, you said something in the lounge rooms around the country, in the pubs around the country, in the cafes around the country, around the water cooler. Everyone would have their own political, position. And they'd say, oh, geez, that's such a great statement, or such and such, doesn't know anything. The problem is now is politicians actually see that unfolding after they've made that comment on Twitter and what to do about it. So if you have something contentious like same-sex marriage, if you have a position that perhaps is in the minority on social media, then you're going to get hammered. If you even bring up that topic, you're going to get hammered. Now,
well, actually, just as an example, there was an article that from the Dallas News that just in doing the research for this topic, talking to exactly what you're saying, and there was someone when Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. They wrote a post on Facebook saying how happy she was about the announcement, and then her 100% conservative brother-in-law unfriended her straight away.
And there's the story you can't control.
Exactly. And because there isn't that sort of etiquette put in place, and there's other examples of, I think the same person also posted about gay marriage, I believe. And they started copying some abuse, and then she had to kind of call them up and say, hey, what do you, this is getting a bit out of hand.
But it's so interesting because it would mean then that as a politician, if you knew that you were going to be, hammered in social media for whatever your statement was going to be, whether it's, that, the environment, financial, whatever it is, you wouldn't say it, which then only leaves you saying things that you think are going to be positive.
Yeah.
Or have a positive effect out there. But society isn't stupid, or people on social media aren't stupid. And then you can say something positive that everyone agrees with. Maybe you come out and say something on a contentious topic, but then everyone would say, well, what about all the things you haven't said on all these other contentious topics? Yeah. So it's just a case I don't think you can win. So I think typically for politicians, it's just best to stay away from social media altogether.
Probably, yeah, absolutely. I don't think they will, though.
I don't actually think social media, unless you only talk in purely populist terms, and I think that can only be done by someone in opposition. I don't think an incumbent, someone already in government, could win government, or necessarily social media would make the difference for winning. Yeah. But certainly if you're out of office, you can make up whatever policies you like, and if they're popular on social media, then you'll probably surf the wave. You'll seem like a really cool dude that's, down with it. And, you're the voice of the people, and then you get elected, and then you turn out to be just like the person before.
Exactly right. I guess just to bring it all together from a cultural standpoint, and now kind of all of this kind of feeds into this notion that we have a lack of authenticity in our leaders, and it's like you said, because we can see through anything they say straight away as whether it's genuine or not. And again, I'm just wondering if you were truly convicted. I know you'd still cop some slack, cop it, every now and then, but if you really did believe and stand up for your whatever it is that you're into as a leader, surely that would have to cut through.
Yeah, well, it would. But the thing is that, as a politician, you have to take multiple positions.
Yeah.
Multiple different points of view. So the problem is in politics is you might score 4 out of 5 in terms of saying the right things, but then all it takes is one misspoken policy, or one not understanding, say something like metadata, when you try to explain to people why it's important that we look at metadata.
Yep.
And
you're gone.
You could have made 4 good policy decisions before that, 4 very popular ones, but you're going to look like a goose. And the thing is that all the controversy or all the social media discussion around it is embellished. It's there forever on the internet, and you can't be a non-person at the point.
And that's what they're afraid of most, because they don't want that sort of mud hanging around.
That's right, and that's the issue with social media, I think. And then in the more populist things, which you've alluded to there, then you really you really start to just say things that you think are popular, but you've got no hope of delivering, which once again is good if you're in opposition, not so good once you get to government.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Steve, we might wrap it up there. We could keep talking about that for ages, because it's a big topic, but we've run out of time. So thanks again for the chat.
Anytime, and very good to talk about this. I'm sure we'll be talking about it some more.
Yeah, absolutely. So just in closing, don't forget our website, scitechculture.com. We've got all of our links there. You can get YouTube, Vimeo, and all of our social media links. So video, audio, you can listen to us in a multitude of formats. And if you think anyone's interested in these discussions that we have on a regular basis, please send them to our website. We'd appreciate that. Just letting you know, this will be the last episode for about a month or so, because I'll be heading off to Japan and China for a couple of weeks, and hopefully posting some content while I'm there. So Steve and I will be back on probably sometime in November, I would say, but still keen to get right back into it. So we'll still be posting individually, but
there'll be some blogs as well coming up too.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure to keep checking us out, and we'll obviously keep our feeds updated on social media. We just have to make sure that we say all the right things.
That's right.
All right, so that's it for this episode. We'll catch you next time.